Welcome to No Apologies on Beck. I am your host, Lori Hins, and we have for you a special treat tonight. This is a theme show. It's not something I've done before, but we have a specific theme tonight, and the theme is Beck TV shows and how they began. So we are going to talk to a bunch of different people, each segment somebody new, and we'll talk about how exactly they got to be here on Beck Television. With me first, very happy to have once again in the studio one of my favorite people of all time, Trent. Loos.
Hi, Lori.
How are you?
Well, I'm sure of this, that if you're doing a theme show and you're starting with me and including Wild Bill, it'll be the last time you do a theme show.
I'm going to learn my lesson. Is that what you're saying? Well, I appreciate you making the effort to get here because I know that you're not necessarily from Bismarck, Mandan.
Oh, I'm local.
But you act local, which is all good. And then the people who watch the show all think you're local, too, because, you know, we all buy into that. We do.
I know. I just report into the studio and make Trent on the loose on a daily basis.
It's a great thing. It's a great thing. So
I did tell you what's a great thing is that you continue to make this thing flourish to new levels, but you have no reason to give an apology, so why even call it No Apologies?
I know, right? That was somebody else's choice. I did not call it No Apologies, but I still like the name because I am very unapologetically Christian. I am unapologetically conservative, so that's why it's No Apologies. I just make no apologies for who I am and what I am.
I'm No Apologies, too.
Yes, you are. Well, let's talk a little bit about how you started. Now, I know.
No, we're here to talk about you.
No. Yes, great.
Because we started in the same place in media, didn't we?
I know, we did. We did start in the same place in media, which is radio. And I started in radio in 1980.
No, you did not.
Yes, I did. I started.
You had radio in junior high?
I was in radio in high school.
I'll be darned. Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't choose to get into media or radio until 1999. And I walked into Jim Thompson's radio studio in Spearfish, South Dakota, and I said, "Hi, my name is Trent Loos, sixth generation United States farmer, and I want my own radio show."
And he said,
His exact words, "You and every other American." And then he laughed.
Ha, 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 ha.
And guess what I did?
Did you go to another radio station?
I sat down.
Oh, you did? So, like, I'm not done.
He looks at me
We're
and
not
he
done
says,
here, dude.
"Are you serious?" I said, "I'm not leaving till we get a deal."
That's fantastic. You were certain at that time that's exactly what you needed to do.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. So you went and you parlayed that into so many different other iterations of, is that too big of a word? Sorry. So many different styles.
Time out. Cut the tape.
Media.
You don't think I know what iterations mean?
I'm totally jamming you, dude. I'm totally. You gave me deer in the headlights there for a moment. It was fabulous. So you changed your stripes all over the place, and then you added different kinds of media, and you've actually kind of only just been adding and adding.
I'm trying to find something I can handle.
Yeah. Well, I think Trent on the Loose is about perfect for you to
Trent on the
handle.
Loose is really doing well. I love doing it. I love bringing the people to the forefront. It's just been fantastic.
Well,
but Loose Tales, the 3.5-minute daily radio program, Monday through Friday, which airs on 100 stations in 21 states, is still the flagship. And it's still where I identify the people and the places in rural America that truly make it what it is.
You can double up, though. You can use that same person.
I never do.
You don't? You all do different stuff?
No.
Oh.
If it's on Loose Tales, it's on Loose Tales.
Interesting.
Now, once in a while, I'll do some crossover with Rural Route Radio because I do 4 radio shows every day and a TV show called Trent on the Loose that airs on Beck News. You should watch it sometime.
I should.
I'll give you the address before I leave.
It's great. There's your logo.
Look at my logo. That's
I know.
nice.
We're already, it's super cool, right?
And then I have this other satellite show, which is called Ladies of Another View and a Dude. And I'm the dude.
Yes, of course.
And then I have No Apologies 2, and I'm the 2.
Nice.
Okay, but I want to say...
He's just making stuff up, people, just so you know.
No, I'm not making anything up. All of it has been proven and documented, can be found in the archives of becknews.com. But I want to tell you something very interesting, Lori, and you'll relate to this, and the viewers can come along. When I started doing radio, it was like, "Oh, you do radio?" "Yes, I do." "Oh, I'm glad, podcasting, that's just like a little something or nothing." And it was like this big deal about whether you're a radio person or a podcaster, because podcasters were just people with a computer that were trying to do something.
Yep. Bloggers were kind of in the same.
Yeah, blogger. Right?
Yeah, blogger.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
Then somewhere along 2015, maybe?
Yeah, recently.
All of a sudden, it's like, "Are you a podcaster?" I'm like, No, I do radio. Oh, you should do podcasting.
It's funny, isn't it, how flipped? It is weird.
And I'm like,
I will say radio is very enduring, as is television. You know, the medium is such that it's not really going anywhere. It's the delivery that's different. Like you might stream the TV show or you might stream something now, right?
Right.
So.
Right, and to your point, in 2001, when Loose Tales started, if you had something that was viral, you went to the hospital.
Back in the olden days, when the word actually meant what it was supposed to be.
Right, exactly.
No, I'm totally
now
with you on
everybody
that one.
wants to be viral.
I know,
I'm like,
right?
what the heck?
Ooh, we would try not to do that before. But no, it's funny how things have changed and yet stayed the same. And you have just chameleoned it. You've just really, you've adapted to whatever is, you know, your colors change and you're able to still be wildly popular all over the country.
Oh, that's an embellishment, but thank you. But it's because I continue to focus on the people that I talk to.
I didn't even mention the international stuff, which you do too. It was like I was just minimizing it for you there.
I have not spoken outside of the United States since March of 2020. Things have changed.
That is true.
Yeah, but I did speak on 4 continents before that.
That's fantastic.
And the interesting thing is that no matter whether I'm speaking in Japan or Australia, Ireland, the UK, with the internet, I never missed a day of radio. You're just always there, and you can do the same thing because, believe it or not, a little secret, I'm not in the Beck TV studios every day.
This is a real special thing, people, that he's actually here. It is. That's true. You're able to do things remotely from all over the country. I mean, I've seen you all over the country when you're on Loose Tales.
Right.
When you're on, you know, Trent on the Loos, and when you're on.
And there's a purpose for that. It's because when you're sitting in here in the studio, you're wired up, you got everything prim and proper. It's like, you can't make a mistake. I'm out in the field, it's like, it's field reporting, people. It's expected.
There's a lot more room for error.
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Well,
it's just Trent.
But that's what the great thing is it's just so real. Like our conversation right now is just genuine. You can see that we're not scripted. We're not reading from teleprompters. There's none of that crap. It's all real. That's the beauty of the Beck TV show.
It is.
You know, plain and simple. That's the beauty of it. So.
In all seriousness, I couldn't be more proud to be a part of the team. It's a great team. People ask me all the time, tell me about Beck. And more people all the time are asking. And I said, it's a group of people. It's a co-op. And it's a group of people that just got fed up with being force-fed one side of the story. And as people have said, we want to open up the avenues to every side of the story. And that's what it's about.
I feel very proud too. I'm pretty proud of that logo back there. And yeah, you're right. The folks that are on this show, and they all have really pretty strong opinions about stuff, you and me included. And it's great because we're given a platform to be able to spew that out to y'all.
There's one other media outlet that you've neglected to bring up.
Billboards?
My movie.
You've got a movie?
Of course I've got a movie. What do you mean?
You are the king of all media. How silly of me. What?
It's on Netflix. In fact, when it was released on Netflix May of 2020, in the first 30 days, it was one of the top 20 watched movies on all of Netflix.
How did I miss that?
I don't know, because you're going to feel really bad when I tell you what it's about.
Okay. I'll bite.
It's called The Stand at Paxton County. And I encourage you to go to Netflix and watch it tonight. It's there for 2 more years.
I've got Netflix.
And it is based upon the Gary Dossinger situation in Stark County, North Dakota.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
And 80% of it actually happened. I assisted in writing it.
Wow.
I had a good part, not the part that I wanted. I was going to be the sheriff of Paxton County. And I had it all lined out with Forrest Lucas. It was a Forrest Films. It is a Forrest Films production.
What the heck?
And he says, Trent, you know, because I knew the sheriff of Stark County. I knew what was happening to Gary Dossinger. I knew the whole story, front and center, front and back and everything. And the producer, Ali Afshar, who's been in Hollywood forever, he said, but Trent's never acted. And he said, but he knows the story, just do it. And then some guy named Christopher McDonald, just because he can do a Shooter McGavin in 1922 on Happy Gilmore, somebody thinks he's better qualified to be a sheriff in Paxton County.
Well,
he takes my job.
Every time you're on here, I find out something new. That one I had never known before. Now I'm going to have to look it up on Netflix. Welcome back to No Apologies. It is theme night. Tonight the theme is all things Beck TV shows and how they started. Got a little feel for what was going on last time with Trent. somewhat not. But then now we're going to go to Ladies of Another View. And with me, one of the creators and originators of Ladies of Another View, Mary Graner. Thanks for being on the show.
Well, thank you so much, Lori. This is so exciting.
I think you were on the show one time because you helped me host.
I did.
That was I think the last time we had you here. But I love the Ladies of Another View because I kind of saw the genesis of it starting myself and in real time, and it was super fun because all my friends are on this show,
right?
People, like all my people. So it's an amazing program. You guys do such a good job, and we are very complementary in our program styles, a little bit different, but also some similarities. So it's always fun to have you on.
Well, and it's like we don't want to be too much the same because then why would they watch both shows?
True.
Boom.
Good point. And the thing that I enjoy about your show is that you do a segment at the end called The Lighter Side.
Yes. Because we have so many people, we cover a lot of dark things and a lot of things that are just kind of heavy. And so we don't want people leaving feeling bad about the doom and gloom of what's going on in our country. Right. And so we try to get something light and lighthearted, and it could be, you know, a TikTok or it could be a local story. Today we had a little guy, I found him at a garage sale. He was selling his wares, and he painted seashells and he was selling them. He had cups full of popcorn. He had pop, water, and then he had what are they called? Like popsicle sticks, and then he put stuff on, and then he had
He's an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and then he had these rocks, and I said, well, what made you think of that? Oh, I don't know. I just found some rocks, and I glued some eyeballs on. And it's like, but kids and creativity, and that's another part of our show. We like to show what kids can do instead of, you know, get them out of their bedrooms with their computers and their iPads and go out and do something.
Exactly, 100%. Well, when we were children,
right?
That's what we did, and they wouldn't let us in the house until, you know, later. So let's talk about how it kind of got started. It was kind of a genesis thing. Ladies of Another View here on Beck began basically because the boss and Mary, Patty, you're right. The boss and Patty were neighbors, and they were hanging out, and they were like, oh, we should figure it out. And then it just came from there.
Well, and what Patty did, and I didn't know Patty very well, and so she called me and said, hey, Mary, would you like to be on a talk show? It's like,
wait, what?
No. no, thank you. And so she and I didn't know her that well. And I said, well, why would you ask me? And she said, well, I just remember you from PTO that I wasn't afraid to speak up. And it's like, well, fundraising has always come easy for me. It's like, if someone says no, the next person will say yes. And so I have no trouble talking that way, you know, and speaking. And so I didn't have trouble. So she thought I was a perfect fit. I did not return her call.
Oh, you did? I did not know that.
I did not. And so then she finally called me again and said, hey, Mary, you know, why don't you just come to the meeting? And it's like,
you know what's strange about this too, though, is if somebody would have told me at some point that some TV person from a cooperative that's 70 years old was going to call you up and say, hey, we'd like to have you on a TV show, and you can pretty much do as you please, and we won't micromanage you. I just never saw that coming.
Me either. Did you say Derek's 70 years old? No. You said...
I never said that.
Yeah, she said
I did not.
70
the cooperative
years old.
Is 70 years old. Which we're very, very proud of, too, by the way. Honestly, seriously, because without this Beck cooperative and the people who believed in that vision, because they have been nothing but supportive. And that's another shocker. It's an amazing thing that we have people in the state who are willing to take a chance on something new like Ladies of Another View and No Apologies.
Right, and so initially what we were supposed to do is watch The View and then come back and report on it.
But I'm sorry, that would have been a graduated form of torture, and I don't think that's very kind to do that to people.
And they didn't give us, like, hazard pay. And so...
Right.
So there was like, sorry,
are there any
not
people
sorry.
who even watch that show seriously?
Well, and here's the deal. Our viewers don't watch that show, and so why would we encourage them to go watch another show so that we can go ahead and give the other view? So we decided, just take mainstream stories and tell the rest of the story. So now we're kind of more like the Paul Harvey of mainstream media.
Well, that is what I was looking for, too, is kind of the genesis and the movement from one place to the next and how you got started and how you kind of got moved along. And as time has gone on, you've had some of your peripheral hosts who have moved away. You've had some who have left or attrition and things like that, but you've also gained some people too. So talk about who you have on the show now.
Wow. Well, there's still Patty and I were the two lead hosts. And Patty is kind of looking to kind of get closer to retirement. So Please stay, Patty.
Please not.
Yes.
Please not do
And
that.
then we have Carmen and Jan, and they have been with us from the beginning. So the four of us have been here from the very get-go.
Right.
And they just absolutely love it. They've seen the highs, they've seen the lows, and just gone through it and morphed with the show. And then we have a few other gals. We have April and Amy and
Lori
Beauchamp. And the nice thing about Lori is she brings that medical aspect. She is a nurse, and so it gives the show more credibility because she will explain stories that she has actually lived or she has, dealt with through the medical, just being in the medical field.
Well, that's the interesting thing about your whole cast too, is that everybody brings different skills and different talents to the show too. I mean,
and I should mention too, Emily is also with us, and Emily, she does, and she's kind of quiet on the set, but she's a little bit younger than the rest of us, so I think she might be a little bit intimidated, but she actually does interviews for the Cowboy channel, and so she's very good at what she does.
Wow.
Yeah, and so that's why she's gone a lot. She'll go to the NFR and the American, the different rodeos, the big national rodeos, and she does interviews. That's what she does for a living.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and so it's just a broad range of people that we have, and it's just exciting.
So your program is on weekdays, every weekday, what time to what time?
4:30 to 5:30, and then we have an encore the next morning at 10 o'clock, and you can always find us on beck.news, and you can watch any of the past episodes. But one of the fun things, and I'm just trying to rattle because I only have so much time, but our My Hometown series and our Summer Destination series, what we try to do is highlight small communities and try to get people off the beaten path and check out what a small community has to offer. Right now I'm working on the Turtle Mountains, and I have a confirmed guest, the gentleman.
I love Lake Metagoshi and that whole area of the country. Oh, that whole part of North Dakota is such a gem.
Beautiful.
It is. It's
and
beautiful there.
Bennett Breen's going to be on. He is the artist that came up with the Fighting Sioux logo, and he's from that area.
Neat.
And he does metal art all over that area. So it's just going to be fantastic. We'll talk about Annie's house, and that is, she was named after the only North Dakotan that died in the 9/11 towers. And so,
Annie, I remember that, yeah.
It's so
Great
exciting.
stuff.
In fact, if you had to choose a show, I'm sorry, Lori.
Thanks for staying with us. Welcome back to No Apologies on Beck. I am Lori Hinz, your host. Tonight I am doing a theme of sorts. The theme of the evening is Beck shows and how they got started. Well, we have one in infant form right now, infancy, in its very beginning stages right now. With me, zooming in from the western side of the state and the great area of the Medora folks, is Bill Palanuk. Thanks for being on the show tonight, Bill.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for having me, Lori. Appreciate it.
We're talking about your new program, which is called Dakota Cowboy, and it is coming soon to Beck TV. It is going to be a weekly show. It'll be 1 hour. It is currently in development, so this is a really cool time to be talking to you. So we're going to promote it before people even get to see it. So thanks for coming on, and thanks for even considering working here at Beck, because it is great fun, as you will soon find out, my dear.
Well, all these former radio people, I feel like I'm coming home, if you will.
That's all true. So I started in radio, but you have a prolific career in radio as well.
Yeah,
Tell me a little bit about you.
It's been great. I've been on the air, since about the mid 1980s. Spent some time in Bismarck at some of the stations there, and then I went on to Sioux Falls, South Dakota for a decade, and then to Deadwood, and been back in Western North Dakota since 1997. And I've been with the North Dakota Cowboy Hall of Fame for 6 years, doing radio programs and podcasts and videos for them, and just enjoying life out here in Western North Dakota. In fact, today it's been pouring rain all day long, and that's wonderful when you consider a year ago we were 106 degrees and breathing smoke.
I remember.
Yes.
Yeah, and droughty, all droughty everywhere. And so, yeah, that rain is definitely welcome. Well, people will tell me, oh, you have such a nice voice for radio. But you have a great voice for radio. So this is great because you can parlay it to all these different things. And you talked a little bit about doing podcasts and stuff. And I had your friend and mine who credits you with a lot of his radio start, actually, too. Trent Loos was on an earlier segment tonight. And he says,
Really?
he's like, Bill's going to be on, too. This will be great. He goes, you'll never do this again, he said. But I think I probably will, because I'm looking forward to seeing what you're going to have on your new show. Got some ideas for the types of segments you're going to have on your new Dakota Cowboy show here on Beck?
Oh gosh, there's so many great stories from the North Dakota Cowboy Hall of Fame. And I'm just the host. I am not the star of the show. The star is the North Dakota Cowboy Hall of Fame and all the history that's behind it, as well as the city of the community of Medora, North Dakota. Gosh, one of my favorite memories of the induction ceremonies at the North Dakota Cowboy Hall of Fame was when Harold Schaefer was inducting Louis L'Amour. And Harold was at the podium and he was speaking and he said, quote, "And Louis L'Amour's ancestors." And when he said that, a crack of thunder went across the Badlands. And it's just, I get goosebumps every time I tell that story. It's a wonderful story. I've seen men who have conquered some of the most rankest bucking horses on the planet reduced to tears when they're at the podium being honored by being inducted into the North Dakota Cowboy Hall of Fame. There's a rich history out here that I cannot wait to share with the world. So stories like that. Our first guest, I will give you a hint that our very first guest is going to be Theodore Roosevelt.
Really?
And, yes,
that
he
sounds
was
like a good plan.
He was inducted. Yes, he was inducted.
He's been dead for a while.
Well, I don't know how I'll get him then. We'll have to figure something. I better come up with something.
I don't know, but in Medora, there's always Teddy Roosevelt. He's always alive and kicking in Medora.
He's the 1999 Great Westerner inductee into the North Dakota Cowboy Hall of Fame. And his story is miraculous, if you will. He lost his wife and his mother on the same day, Valentine's Day. And, that would certainly defeat most men. But somehow he came out to the Badlands and became inspired. And one of the questions I want to ask him is, he credits his time spent in North Dakota responsible for him being in the White House. He would have said he never would have been president if it hadn't been his time spent in North Dakota. So we want to find out what he picked up at the Elkhorn and Maltese Ranch that he applied to the Oval Office. That's one question that I have, but there's so many great stories that we're going to be sharing, and the history and some of the things that happened at Jaden Terrace during our induction ceremonies, which is our signature event. So yeah, there's not going to be any shortage of content. That's for sure.
Yeah, there's just so much to talk about, and it's a plethora of topics too. You've got so many different things with ranching and farming, and you've got cowboying. You've got all of the history of the area. You've got the tourism and all of the events. There's so very much on that side of the state to talk about. And I think it's great though that we're managing to let people know in North Dakota all sides of the state too, because Beck TV, of course, as you know, goes from west to east, all the way from Belfield to Fargo. It's all covering the whole state. So it's going to be a great benefit to be able to get that information to people and just the stories that you've got.
Yes, and one other category that I want to mention too is the Native Americans. We
of course.
We have a lot of history of the Native Americans. We have a big display at the North Dakota Cowboy Hall of Fame for the Native Americans, and they certainly have a great deal with the history of the great state of North Dakota. Sitting Bull and Sakakawea are both inductees in the Great Westerner category, as is Theodore Roosevelt. So we're going to be spending some time, talking about their stories as well. So yeah, and of
now
course
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I looked at this is what happens when you get two radio announcers, people, right here. You have on your signature, you have on there Ukrainians in North Dakota, the Opry and Talking Trail. And I wanted to ask you about those things too, because when you sign your emails, you've got Dakota Cowboy, Cowboy Hall of Fame, but you've got these other things on there too. So I want to talk about that too. So we only got 2 minutes.
Okay, the Opry is a project in South Dakota that I'm involved with. Some musicians that we've done some performances at the historic Homestake Opry House in Leeds, South Dakota. Ukrainians in North Dakota. My mother wrote a book called Ukrainians in North Dakota, in Their Voices, and she interviewed the immigrants that came to this country from Ukraine, and she compiled it into a book that we recently got submitted into the State Library in Bismarck, as well as all the schools in North Dakota. So I've had a front row seat to people documenting history my whole entire life. I remember being a youngster with my mother going to all these places and interviewing the Ukrainian immigrants. And so, yeah, and Talking Trail, that's an app that I do voice work for, like the Fargo Air Museum, the Buffalo Museum in Jamestown, and so Enchanted Highway. It's if you go up to their displays, a voice will come on and say the display before you was blah blah blah. So yeah, so I use my voice that way too. Talking Trail, it's a lot of fun. You learn more about history. So yeah, history is my thing.
Well, I'm pretty excited about this new show. It is called Dakota Cowboy. It is beginning very soon on Beck TV, in development right now, and I'm sure it's going to be fantastic, and you are not going to want to miss it. So watch for your local listings for when you'll be able to see Wild Bill. Are you Wild Bill? Why isn't it just Pleasant Bill or like Calm Bill? Why is it always Wild Bill?
Wild compensates for my subdued personality, so.
Sure it does.
Oh, and
sure
one more thing quickly.
Yes,
The library, the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library, which is coming to Medora. I had dinner next to the folks involved with that last night. They are very interested, and we're brainstorming a fixture for them, a presence for them on Dakota Cowboy as well. So I'm really looking forward to all the above.
Welcome back to No Apologies on Beck. What a fun night it is tonight. We've got a theme going tonight. The theme is different television programs on Beck TV and how they started. And with me from Kansas City, I believe, is the Whited family. It is David and Stacy Whited on Flyover Conservatives on our Beck TV station. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you. We're so excited to be here with you.
Well, this is going to be super fun for me because I've watched your show and I really enjoy it. And now I get to actually meet you kind of virtually in person. So, but it's all part of the whole Beck family, and we really enjoy having your show here. So thank you for being on the program.
It's been an honor. You know, it's been kind of a whirlwind for us. You know, we first started our podcast in January of 2021, and you know, it was kind of inspired by we had a son that's I think he was 27 or 28 at the time, and had a newborn child, and he's like, you know, you guys didn't inherit as good of a country as your parents did. And he goes, it's worse now. We're on the brink of losing it. And it goes, I don't know if we're even going to have any freedoms left for my children when they came up at the current trajectory. And, you know, we had this feeling, this was again, January of 21, the inauguration was going on. There was just a lot of sadness and it was like frustration of wrapping our heads around what was going on in our country. And we kind of had this feeling of a lot of people were sitting back waiting for Donald Trump to do 80 million things to save America. They were like, okay, we had these 4 years. Now the next 4 years, he's really going to drain the swamp and all these things. And everybody wanted Donald Trump to do 80 million things to save our country. And what we kind of were feeling is we needed 80 million Americans to do one thing each day to save their own country. That's what made our country great to start with. And that's where we began to lose it, where there was too few people involved in the civics process. I think COVID helped wake that up in people. They realized, wow, if I live in Michigan, it's a little different than if I live in Florida. If I live in Michigan, I can't buy grass seed at the Walmart. And, you know, it's like, wow, my governor must play a role. It's not all about just the president. You know, what affects the pothole in my street or the school that my kids go to, those are things I can actually be involved in and engaged in. So we kind of, you know, began this under those circumstances of like, hey, what can we do to gather the best minds in the world on medical fraud, election fraud, you know, religious fraud, you know, all the different, you know, 7 mountains of influence that we've sort of given up as conservatives. We started Flyover Conservatives, not Flyover Republicans or anything like that, Flyover Conservatives, because it's predetermined values that we walk into that room with. We'd never personally met anybody who'd been a guest on a podcast. We just sort of started figuring it out, but we knew we could have good conversations with the brightest minds in the most important areas that we had lost ground in, with the goal of educating people how to take action and do something, not just get enraged and engaged, but like really, okay, I'm going to walk out with a plan of what can I do to impact my area.
That is so true. And our slogan is wake up, speak up, and show up. And that's exactly what David was saying.
Well, I was thinking to myself too, Stacy, isn't that what all new grandparents do? They start a podcast and then go on to TV. I mean,
exactly.
Like, you know, I mean, it's kind of crazy, but we kind of had the same sort of thought here. And the whole theme really tonight is to free speech. It is free speech. We've got it available to us on Beck. We can say we're not censored like we are on the YouTubes and the other platforms, because believe me, we've all been there and we've all been silenced in that way. But Beck gives us a great opportunity to have our voice spoken. But new grandbaby, and it does make you really want to make the world a little better for the munchkin, doesn't it?
Oh, there's no doubt about it, you know, because as you do, you start looking around and thinking, wow, okay, if we don't do something, if we don't come together as a country, just like David said, we are not going to have the freedoms that our parents had, and our grandchildren are not going to be free. And so it is critical that we do take steps, and you would do anything for your grandchildren and for your kids. That's what we're seeing when it comes to what's happening at school board meetings and all of that. The zeal of the Lord is falling on these moms and dads and these grandparents that are showing up and saying, no longer is this going to happen. You are not going to do this to my children.
Amen. I love that people are getting involved, and I think that's a part of my mission here too, is just to educate people, give them the tools and the information they need to be able to get involved. And you're right, it's going to take all of us pulling together, because you're right, one dude is not going to be able to do it all by himself. You're 100% right. So when you started, you just started like a year and a half ago, like that's all? I was thinking that you guys had been doing this forever, and you just started it. That's crazy. So you've got some benefit, though, of some good techie kids, do you not?
We really do. We came together as a family. In fact, we were business owners. Our son was a business owner, and our daughter was a school teacher, and we all put those things on hold, and we're like, all right, we're going to go all in as a family, and that's exactly what we've done. You know, obviously, David and I are in front of the camera, but our son is our producer as well as our CEO, and our daughter does all of our marketing. She does all of our social media thumbnails. She does it all, and so it's really been really fun to come together as a family to do it.
That is such an inspiration for other families. I mean, you could just make that happen in a short amount of time, be able to, change what you're doing, chop and change, and then help America. It's amazing. Now, I know you've been involved in things like with Clay Clark's Reawaken America and stuff like that before, too. How could that happen in a year and a half? Is it just meeting all of these different people? Because I can tell you that when I have had guests on this show, it's been phenomenal just getting the information from them.
Yeah, you know, one thing you have to, we learned early in life. We started our first business when we were 23 years old. And you know, I think when you're okay with failing, you know, when you kind of come to grips with that, they're like, okay, you know what? Like, the worst thing is not failing. The worst thing is just not doing. Yeah. And so once you're okay with that, you realize you're living in a time where everything you want to know is at your fingertips. And so it's a matter of researching it. You know, there's no reason for ignorance, you know, in today's world, because you can research it out and find it. So once we were okay with kind of always being the dumbest one in the room, you know, we have on General Flynn, or we have on, you know, Dr. Zelensky or you know, Peter McCullough, or, you know, these people that like dedicated their whole life to a specific thing. And then, you know, we're just interested fans. We're like, and so we're like, wow, you know, we just did a show just a minute ago with Mel K, and she's researched probably 10-12 hours a day for, you know, the last 10 or 12 years. And so every week we're learning about, man, how does the World Economic Forum work, and what's their connection with the WHO and the IMF and the United Nations, and when did this begin? It's like, when you start learning all of these things, and you're okay with just being dumb, and saying, oh, I thought I knew a lot, but I didn't. And so we have a very hungry, you know, curiosity, and okay with just being humble and saying, you know, hey, we don't know, we want to take notes, and then bring it on the best minds in the world. I think that really helped a lot, because sometimes people get hung up on what they don't know, and we just embraced what we didn't know and put it on the table. As
well as willing to, you know, serve in any capacity that we can. You know, we went to the very first Reawaken event. It was called Reopen event back in April of 2021, and we met Clay Clark there. We had an opportunity to interview him right before that event. But when we went there, we were like, all right, Lord, we are willing to do whatever we need to do to help this event across the United States. So we just rolled up our sleeves and we asked Clay, what can we do? How can we help? And he said, well, the events could really use a meet and greet where people get to meet some of the speakers. And we're like, okay, we'll host it. And we were like, how can we help in any capacity, in any way? Because we realized at that point, it was a way for Americans to link arms, to be able to go home and know what they need to do on Monday, to be able to help save their country. And so that's another thing too, is just willing to serve in any way that we can, in any capacity, to help to save our country.
Now, we've only got like 30 seconds left in the whole thing, and I had my favorite question waiting in there in my ear, like 30 seconds. I'm like, no, I've got to. So here's my last one, really. So make it quick. But I know personally that I don't think I could work with my spouse. So kudos to you, because we love each other. We've been married for 35 years, but there is going to be a problem if we have to work together. So I don't know how y'all do it, but there must be some skills that you have. So
well, we've done it since we were 23 years old, and so there has definitely been situations where we're like, "All right, you're fired," and then I'm fired the next day. You know, we do that to each other, but we really do. We've been kind of a partnership where we're willing to do whatever it is, whether it's own a business or save a country.
We're used to trade and paint a little bit, and we just kind of keep moving, and everybody starts again tomorrow. So
it's awesome that you can do that. 7 p.m. weekdays here on Beck TV. Flyover Conservatives. Thank you, David and Stacy. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks, Lori.
Thank you so much.